actually be two different recordings, but at least we didn't have 10 minutes there. We'll see how it goes. So,
Okay.
so just to catch up on the recording, this is what on screen and what are you about to look at?
It's Megachile rotundata, and we're going to attempt to illuminate the small oval here. Fovea has different reflective surface and is often a little tricky to see. So a lot of times you're going to take your specimen and rock it back and forth under the light to highlight whether it's there or not. And sometimes, particularly if you see it, it's good. If you don't see it, then you often want to spend a little more time, because this is part of the separation skill set, but doesn't have to be the sole identification character. And you'll see it can be just tough to see in apicalis, and consina can trick you into whether it has it or not. So what we're looking at is up here. Here's T1, here's T2. And it's that area right there, and it doesn't show up really well. Usually it shows up to, I think of it as a slightly grayer patch. Mike, while I'm doing this, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, you've got it. I mean, I think it's looking good, Sam. You've got the whole thing exposed, and in some cases T1, or actually the whole abdomen kind of gets compressed in, and T1 can hide or partly hide that fovea.
Yeah.
So you got to sometimes work hard to see it, but that's a good image right there. That's what you're looking for, and
it's not really that dramatic. That's the thing. And when you're looking for these things, this is useful so that you see that all this other kind of structure, the pits and all kinds of things sort of fades away, and it just is this very gray area. I suppose it's full of microscopic hairs. I don't really know. Do you know?
Yeah, it is. Well, I don't know if they're microscopic, but they're very dense and short, and yeah, they're showing up pretty good there.
Okay, so there it is in rotundata. Another character on rotundata that's helpful, and we'll contrast this with apicalis. The clipial rim is straight across. I don't think we need to show that, because it's the lack of what we're going to see in apicalis. And also, ooh, there we go. And so, yeah, so you can see how it highlights differently. And then when we look, one of the characters that I use is, if we look on the abdomen here, and this is a good character in general to look for and look at in any Megachile, is the presence. It's possibly not going to show up well. Let me go to the other specimen. This one is stretched out, so to speak. The characters are there, but this other specimen is more of a natural look to it.
Yeah, in the Midwest, you see about 100 rotundata for every consina or apicalis. Those other two species are very uncommon here.
Yeah, yeah, ditto in the East. So apicalis, as we probably will talk about, is a centraria specialist. And so you'll find it on knapweeds. I don't know if it really does the yellow star knapweed that's way out west, but it's on spotted knapweed. And I just associate it with really like along railroad tracks, big urban areas, really kind of highly disturbed areas that have giant patches of knapweed in and near metropolitan areas. Does that match your?
Sam, I have seen so few Midwestern apicalis, and no host records from any of them. So I don't know. And yeah. Centauria and spotted knapweed is a very common.
Huh. Okay.
Weed. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think all of mine have come from there, and I think I was talking maybe to Terry Griswold, and I think it's a known or thought to be known specialist from Europe on that group. which of course where all the spotted knapweeds and things come from. So another character here, and this is going to be a contrast with the Consilla, or what is it, Pusillus? What's the
I think that's the new name.
Yeah, so which we'll get to in a second. So here's the T2, 3, or yeah, this is 4 and 5, but you can see these thick dark hairs, these thick dark CT to hairs. I'm not sure which they would be called here along the sides, and that are black. And so apicalis and rotundata have that, and Consina basically does not have any of that there. There might be a very few, and usually more up here, not on the lateral sides in Consina, but I don't think I've ever seen any on 3, for example. So that's another good character. And then, and we'll see in apicalis that when you look at the sternites, I'm taking the same rotundata and I'm turning it on its side to show you that the scopal hairs are all white until you get to S6. So S6 would be here, white, everything is white. There might be a very few here possibly, but in apicalis, this is all going to be black. And then there'll be a little black rim of them here. Now, the other part is, though, apicalis has this great character. So I'm going to shift now. I wonder if we can see the little spot. You can kind of vaguely see it here, but again, it's not something that leaps out. So I'm going to shift to apicalis, if that's okay with everyone. So this is the one. I don't see many of these either, but I do pretty much recall seeing them all in these super beat up areas with unspotted knapweed. But they're like train station or a train yard in Cumberland, Maryland, or something like that. Like the worst of the worst sort of areas, or downtown Baltimore in the industrial area. All right, this is very white, and I might take that down. But what we're looking at is a male, and I just want you to see it's a little bit dark. The legs are a little bit in the way here, but here's, oh, that was my finger. This is S6, here's S5, and you can see it's all black hairs, and then S4 is mostly white, but there's often a rim of black hairs in there too. The gimme on this one, though, is the Clypeus.
So, Sammy, you just said that you had a male there and that you're pulling apicalis.
It's female.
It's a female.
That was females. Right. And it was apicalis, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. A female. So on the rim of the Clypeus, let's see if I can get this to show. We're seeing that should be good. I'll try and change the angle. So here's a Clypeus that I've got the crosshairs on, slightly out of focus. And here's this point to the rim of the Clypeus. And I don't think there's any pits or anything on this, but all the other two that are in North America would be straight across or maybe very slightly concave. But this has this very noticeable pointy triangle, blunt triangle sticking out on the front. I'm going to change the angle a little bit. So where have you collected yours, Mike, or seen?
It's downtown St. Louis.
Okay.
You
so
know, just,
and this urban.
Oh yeah.
Urban thing. I think there must. I think like I don't think I have ever. We also have tons of spotted knapweed in areas in the countryside.
Oh, that looks good. That's looking good.
Yeah, and we, I don't think I've ever gotten apicalis on those. It's always been in cities. And same with Consina pusilla. So here we go, point on there. So that gives it away with the bands of hairs underneath the scopal hairs on the sternites has apicalis, but there's a couple other good characters. If you looked along the sides on the tergites, you'd also see black hairs coming out there. And unless, Mike, you want to see or anyone else wants to see anything else, we'll move to the Consina pusilla. I think it's pusilla specimen. We're stumbling. I haven't shifted. I'm not 100% sure that I believe that the specimens we have are all pusilla, although I'm leaning that way from a revision or at least a paper that was done by, can't remember his name, on the group on Europe. And then he mentioned that he had seen specimens from the US and they conformed not to what we have been calling it, which was Consina, but to this other species. The group as a whole, I think the many species that are in Europe and North Africa are also tricky for everybody. Okay, so now Consina, oh, I'm sorry, I am going to go back and I'll show you how relatively difficult it is to see the fovea on the abdomen. So theoretically, there's two. There's one on S2, like in rotundata, but actually narrower. And there's another on S3. The S3 one, you have to have a really pristine specimen. So this one's got goop on the side to see that. And S2, and the S2 one can be difficult because it's narrower. So here's S1, S2 is here, and I really would have a difficult time. Maybe that's it there, pointing it out. That's probably it right in that area. But let me go to another specimen. I just struggle sometimes with seeing that. The point works well, but the two fovea thing on S2 and S3 are often difficult to see.
Well,
so,
when I get a specimen like that, Sam, and I know it's Eutrichoria because of the sternal fascia, and if the fovea are really obscure, I mean, and then I check a couple other things, the hind basotarsus. Assuming you have rotundata specimens, you can compare. Then you can compare. If you're not sure about the fovea, then you can compare it against rotundata. And then there are a couple other things that'll help. Oh, that's sufficiently obscure right there.
Yeah. So here it is again with the lovely point, and then we'll also contrast as Mike had some good characters that we'll look at too, that look at the relative distances of the compound eye to the vertex and compound eye to the ocelli, and these basotarsal, which are basically comparative things.
Yeah, you almost have to have both species. Yeah.
But here it's just I have spent a lot of time kind of looking for these vague. They're there in a really good specimen, but like here, it's really difficult for me looking at this picture of something that surely is apicalis and finding those fovea. So just pointing out that you don't necessarily have to see the fovea, although it is usually worth spending some time looking for them. Okay, so Consina, and then we'll contrast this with rotundata and look at, in particular, the characteristics of that Mike was talking about in his key of the metrics on the head and also the basotarsal ones. But you need a collection. That's why we emphasize a lot of times, like you, and you can get specimens from us. We have a whole bunch of surplus that we give away. I'm going to knock down the power on here, but what I want you to notice is that there's a real lack of dark hair throughout any spines throughout that area. But let me have the power go down. There we go. Light is pretty bright. Does it get brighter? There we go. Darker.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Maybe a tiny bit more. Okay, now. Okay, so you can see the hair is better. Here is S6, and even this segment
T6.
On the other two, yeah, T6. Even on this segment, there's a lot fewer of the dark hairs on there than in rotundata and apicalis. You can see some poking out the sides here, but you can't really see any on these, and they're all over the place in the other species. Maybe there's a couple there on T5. So that's another ancillary one. Mike, and then underneath it's just similar to rotundata, which is all white, except for S6. Also, there are no fovea theoretically on T2 and 3. Although, like Mike puts in his key, sometimes you can kind of see something that looks like it might be, but it's never clear like rotundata would be. And so it's frustrating because if you have a specimen like these are a little bit goopy, then it can really make seeing the fovea on the abdomen difficult. So Mike, you want to talk about the measurements on the ocelli here?
Yeah, from the back, the upper end of the actual eye, and then the distance from that edge to the edge of the vertex.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different in rotundata and consina, or what we're calling consina.
So here's the
one's shorter, one's longer.
Yeah, we'll call it consina for convenience. So
okay.
This is the short one, and somewhere I think in Mike's key it says roughly half-ish on there. And then I will now shift this to a rotundata specimen. And we'll look at the head on this one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I could make that a little darker. Maybe I'll shift it a little bit more, but here, this distance is much more equal to that. But let me rotate the head a little bit so I have a little bit better. You'll be doing this by hand for each of the distances because we're not in the plane of the head sometimes. So here's this distance that what Mike was talking about. So eye to vertex, and then eye to the ocelli, and these are roughly equal. Whereas
in rotundata.
Yeah, and this is rotundata, yep. In a lot less. So, Mike, you want to talk about your other character with the basotarsi?
Yeah, the basotarsi, and once you've looked at a lot of female Megachile of all different species, the basotarsi is broadened variously in many, if not most of them. And it's an interesting character to use, not just with these two here, but others. But anyway, the basotarsi in rotundata is a little narrower than it is in consina. But what does that mean? Until you really see both, or have an image or a drawing of both, you don't. It's what does that really mean? But it's real. I've looked at enough specimens that I'm convinced now that it's a pretty useful character. It's
So
not
here,
dramatic, but it's measurable.
yeah, right. So you can't come up with a, here's how you tell this from that. But in comparison, so these are particularly rotundata, you would have a ton of specimens almost automatically. Almost anyone who's doing this would. So there's the hind one, and I think you said the mid one also is narrower, if I remember right. Is that right?
No, I did. Yeah, that's right. I always think of the hind mesotarsus as the one to look at, but you're right.
This one, I'm not going to bother to reset this one, but because this one's sort of tucked in. But let's now shift to a consina one. So let me put my things in the proper places and see if this one is got. This one looks like it has legs out. Are we looking at? We're looking at the mid mesotarsus there. I think. Or are we looking at the hind? So which was the wider one, the consina?
Consina is narrower.
Okay, which was good because I was thinking that looks narrower. So I had them reversed in my mind. So there you go. So yeah, I mean, definitely looks narrow.
No,
Even no, I noticed.
I'm sorry, I got that mixed up.
Oh.
Yeah, it's should be broader in consina, unless I messed up when I added to the key. Now you've got me wondering if I accidentally switched them.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I thought I went through your key on these characters
and it worked
to the other side, and it worked well. Oh,
okay.
Maybe I was just looking at it at the edge. So here is a better shot.
Yeah, that's slightly broader.
Because I sort of validated it there. So again, how do you could come up with some kind of length width thing, but you'd have to have a measuring reticule. And so this is just how I think both Mike and I like to do things. You have several characters and some are comparative. Sometimes you talk about habitats and sometimes you talk about times of year that you can put together a, what would you call it? A proof based on a variety of characters. What is that called? I'm forgetting. But
yeah, me too.
Anyway, you have several lines of evidence for this, and it's useful to have comparative ones because sometimes you do have comparisons on it, and it's often not that straightforward, particularly when you're starting out and you don't have specimens. Is there anything else we want to see in that group?
I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, almost everything's going to be rotundata. You'll have messed up specimens where you have goop on the abdomen and you'll want to look elsewhere to confirm what they are. Some of these other characters. Okay, before you start leaping to like, oh, it's consina or something like that. So let's go back to Mike's key here. And now we're going to get into the dark-haired group. So we passed through a couple dark-haired species, Sculpturalis. So there's only, I think, 5. So Sculpturalis would be added to this group. It has a whole bunch of other very obvious characters, and Xylicopoides would be in that largely black scopal hairs group. And we've covered that because it's almost entirely black. And then you have this little group of 3, and we cover this a little bit differently in the Discover Life. I think I'm more reflecting some of Mitchell's work, so it'll be fun to talk about that too. But let's go through Mike's here, and sadly I don't have Musida, but I do have Melanophia and Gemula.
Does Musida occur?
So Mike, do you want to speak about those things while I'm lining this specimen up? We'll go to the Clypeus, I guess, first.
Yeah. These are 3 species, Gemula, Musida, and Melanophia, that are really easily confused. There's some geographic differences that sort of help depending on where you are. But in general, to the naked eye, these three look very much alike. It's roughly the same size. There are no white hair bands on the tergites, so that the abdomen in dorsal view is mostly dark. There aren't nice white hair bands like most of the other Megachile species we've looked at possess. And these are fairly good size, 12, 13, 14 millimeters, thereabouts. All ground nesters. And the clypeus in all of them is pretty, it's pretty broad and flat in general. And the mandibles are big, very wide apically. So a pretty distinctive group among the three of them.
Yeah, so we'll get back to the clypeus thing because you have Gemula, which we're looking at now, as being relatively flat. And either I'm not looking at Gemula, but I think your other characters line up with it, or I'm not interpreting that well. But we could start with this is one that I didn't know, which is looking at the basetarsal hairs, which is a pretty cool one. So here's the...
In Gemula, the hairs are short, so and no wider actually than the width of the actual tarsal segment itself. And the other two, the hairs are considerably longer. So that's got to be Gemula.
Yeah. So so in the others, and we'll see them in Melanophia, the hairs that Mike has pointed out, these hairs are so long that they're about the length, not the width. These are only about the width. So that's a good character. This is something that Mitchell used, but you don't mention. So I'm wondering if you are thinking about it differently or you just found your own path. And that is one that I use a lot, which is the presence of light-colored yellowish hairs, usually here at the base of the cheek and then along the edge of the front coxa. And particularly in my area, we have a lot of Mucida and Gemula. They both occur, for example, right here on the research station. These would all be dark, and these would all be dark. But do you have thoughts on that, or?
What I've looked at Gemula from enough areas, I just see enough variation that just makes me, I mean, it's a useful character. It's just, I don't think it.
Absolute. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but it's still useful. I mean, it helps.
Yeah.
It's something.
So also in, I believe in Mitchell, he talks a lot about, and we included in the Discover Life Keys, he talks a lot about the architecture of the mandibles. And in particular, but see, the problem is that particularly for us, we don't spread our mandibles. So he's talking about whether the last tooth, or basically the whole, we might be able to see it here, the whole back rear section, so the section closest to the clypeus, what the shape is there. It's a little dark, but basically in one, and we can flip to Discover Life here, and this is sort of Mitchell's thing. We can maybe lighten this area up some too. You're looking at the back edge where it turns back. So in one species, and I'm forgetting which one, there's basically a shelf here. It's flattened across, and then there's a tooth. And the other, the tooth, the cutting edge, sorry, let me rephrase that. So there's a flattened area before you come to the angle that turns back on the mandible, and then you have a cutting edge. And in the other two species, you have a cutting edge that leaves the back edge as a point. I'm going to shift and try and get the lighting a little bit lighter here, because maybe we can see that in Gemula. But what do you think about that, Mike?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Okay. But like you said, I mean, if the mandibles aren't totally visible. You can think you're seeing one thing when you're maybe not.
Right. So this is always the area that's most hidden, and a lot of times you can make up stories is the problem. So that's why it's good to have several different ways of splitting these species apart.
So of those three species, Melanophia, Gemula, and Mucida, Gemula is really widespread. I mean, it's from Canada down to all Great Plains. It's a very widespread. The other two, at least in my experience, are more geographically restricted. Melanophia tends to be more northern and overlaps with Gemula, but to some extent. But
Yep.
if you're way up north in the Upper Peninsula or further north than that, Melanophia is common. But if you're down in Illinois or you won't find Melanophia. So
Yep.
there is some geography helps a little bit.
Yeah. Same in the east. We don't see Melanophia down here at all. You get a little bit further north into New York and things, you can start picking them up.
And it's in the mountains. In the mountains, you run across it. Okay.
Yep. But not even in the mountains in Maryland. Like we have no records.
Oh, okay.
Even though we do have the plateau there in Garrett County. So here is this, what I was talking about, this, I think I make this bigger here. So here's this plateau before the corner, and then the cutting edge is in front. So there's this big section there. Again, if this is, the mandibles can often be hidden. There might be goop there. There might be slightly recessed under that. So you might be left guessing. And the alternatives are these kinds of situations where this cutting edge and the bend in the mandible form more of a point. We go back to our Gemula specimen. Well, there's also hairs back there and it's dark and I can't get enough light. So what really is going on there is a little bit difficult to say. But we have these other characters to go on. So Mike, one of the thing that was I had the most problem with is in your key, you mentioned that the Clypeus on here is, on the Gemula, is relatively convex.
Well, I said weakly, and it is, again, we're talking real subtleties here. Comparatively to Melanophia and Mucida, it seems to me weakly convex.
Okay.
To my way of thinking.
Okay.
But, probably until you see the alternatives, you could think of it as being flat.
Yeah. Yep, that's right, the subtlety of having specimens. So there's just a lateral. You can see it's mostly hair, so it's hard to detect. When we flip it over and look at it from above, it's hopefully that means that we're still talking. That it's hard to see any architecture there. So in terms of convex or not. Anyway, more convex. And then back here, you'll see that the scutum, if I remember right in your key, is it, no, I can't remember now. Is it supposed to be all white, or is there some hairs in there?
I didn't use any, I don't think I did any scutal characters of the hair.
Okay. All right. But T2 here and T1, there's differences between it's a little bit difficult because these hairs here are coming off of the back of the scutellum, but the pattern of hairs T1 and T2, so this is very different from other Megachile, right? So almost right away you have another avenue to like, oh, we're not looking at the normal kinds of Megachile because the others would all have white hair bands across all these segments, or almost all of them would. And this is all solid yellow hair on both, but some of the species, I can look here at the Discover Life Most of T2 with pale hairs, but brown hairs usually line the rim. And I think your key has some hair characteristics in there too. You're using Musida versus Melanophea as dark hairs versus all pale hairs on the scutum.
Right.
And Gemula is being told by the nice characters on the basotarsus. So we'll shift. I don't have the Musida. They're all at the museum where I've given them away. And since they're not one that I have a whole lot of trouble telling, I have sadly not kept any of the females. So
another thing to note with this trio of species here is Melanophea has several subspecies, and all based on hair color. And so it's variable. And that used to drive me crazy when I was first starting to try to learn these things. And so the sternal hairs can vary a lot in color. From really black to kind of a cranberry or a kind of a red color. And it can drive you nuts.
Right. And I've seen that too. So I've seen things that I was almost certain were that species, but they had all black hairs. And then this amount of orangish yellow, reddish hair in there, which is sort of blends in. It's not very distinct. It's not like a certain band or I'm this color but not that color. Often it's just a wash of hairs. This one is pretty extreme in terms of the amount, but others it can be just a tiny little bit usually towards the tip of the abdomen, and the rest are black. And then every once in a while you just get an all black one. So you want to look at some of these other things that Mike mentions, which I met and is in Discover Life too. But so for example, I think T1 and T2 are solid yellow. We're kind of burnt, blown out here in this species. And then the scutum hairs, I'm going to flip it. And maybe I'm going to lower the light level or a bit here too, because I think we're too light. Has black hairs in it, and Musida, which I don't have, has no light hairs. Not seeing much here, but I have a feeling that if as Mike mentions in his key, that it's mostly in the central area. If we turn this, we'd see that some of those, which we'll go ahead and do. Dark hairs sometimes only show up at certain angles. Melisodes are particularly annoying this way. So there you go. You can see where near the pin, I'll zoom in a bit, that the dark hairs now show up. There's not many, but when we look straight on, didn't see any dark hairs because they match the background integument. Such dirty specimens. Let's see. So just going to look and see if we have, and see the mandible characters. What else are we looking at on this species, Mike?
I think you covered it.
Oh, we might actually be able to see.
Yeah, that's a good shot of the mandibles there.
Yeah, we might actually be able to see that it does not have the gemula-like platform back there.
Oh, yeah,
although, yeah, you can see, so there's all this subtlety, right? So here's the cutting edge really nicely illuminated with shadow. And then you have this point, and then this is backing off, but you could also, is that a plateau there or not? So when they're talking about it, they're accentuating that this curves back rather than goes straight back. But you know, it's arguable. So I think using the mandible characters is problematic, particularly if they also get worn and become less distinct. These mandible edges can be really ground down by all the activity that the female's undergoing. But I would not be happy with just using mandibles on this one, because look on this side too. Here's the cutting edge mirroring that one. That looks pretty dang flat instead of, he's, I think, referring to just that pointed area, but it's ambiguous. Maybe I'll start dialing that back out of our thing and adding in some more of your characters. Yeah, let's see, the tooth, T2 pale hair throughout, and then the cheek and the Gina hairs are all brown. We talked about that all these things have a little bit of variation in terms of the amount of invading dark hairs. And there's bright orange hairs on S2 to 5. But as we say, some are entirely dark just to throw us off. And you could see how this character here, we were looking at, like, was that a large flat area or was that this? And I wasn't certain, but that was very clearly that species. And then in Mike's section here, the nice character is the dark hairs separating it from the pale hairs here. But these two species sort of, we could flip here to Discover Life. I don't think they overlap that much.
I don't think so.
But you have to be, you know, that's the thing about keys. You have to cover all the possibilities, even if it's like, it doesn't matter because they don't overlap. Usada, and then we'll also put in Megachile. Let's see if I can spell it. Is it AEA?
Yep.
Okay. And we click that, and then we jump in, and there is really, interestingly, almost no overlap here. Musida, Melanophia. Wow, it really, like, there we go. There's your one maybe overlap, and everything else is, well, I don't know what that is. Is that a mistake? Oh, it's
Yeah.
ours. Yeah. So Maine, Washington. Oh, it says Melanophia, so that would be right. What's this? So this is, we're constantly exploring things. All right, what's that one? That's USDA. I think there's old, they have a bunch of things that they've cleaned up, but that would not be, almost certainly not be correct.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
We are basically at time, and Shannon wanted just a quick refresher on spreading Megachile mandibles. Does it have to be done right away after euthanizing to work? Always have a hard time spreading them with tweezers.
Oh, don't use tweezers.
About an hour or so after death.
And don't use tweezers. What I do is, I'm right-handed, so I hold the specimen in my left hand firmly, and I put it under the scope because I can't see much anymore. And then I just take a pin, usually number 4, it's pretty stout, and then just spread the mandibles very carefully and very, very slowly. And right away, if you meet resistance, I stop because you don't want to tear the head off. And so I have that second option is to relax the specimen, which we talked about, I think, when we first started the Megachile section. A couple different options is, the slow process is to put it in a humidor, and on 24 or 48 hours, everything should be very pliable, very easy. And Sam had a quicker way with
boiling
the boiling water.
Well,
yeah,
no, we literally would drop
put them in the water,
like the whole with the pin in a centrifuge tube, and I would just use, what are those little quick heating pots that you make one cup of coffee?
Yeah.
I just put in the tube and drop it in, and then pull it back out. And if you want the specimen to look good, then you can re-dip it after you've done whatever you've done in acetone, and then I'll just blow it with my mouth and to good effect. But you can also, you can do endless amounts of things. So you can take paintbrush and have a little tiny blower and fluff it back up. But if it's an old specimen, then your fluffing back up may also result in pulling off the hairs.
So I spread the mandibles before I pin it.
Yep.
I
So
hope
Okay.
that helped.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Any other questions? We still have a whole bunch of other female Megs to go through, so
We do.
we will do that the next time we get together, which won't be next week, but the week after maybe. Are you gone that week?
I am in Iowa teaching a workshop.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll figure it out.
Sounds good. I'm gonna say goodbye.
All right. Thank you, Claire. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, you guys. Next time.
Okay.
2 weeks. Maybe. Well, Clara's in charge. She'll let us all know.